never easy.
Where would the challenge be otherwise?
Well, good morning, Liberal Kansas, Southwest Kansas, the Oklahoma Panhandle, and all other places where you tune in to get your news and views from the middle of America. This row, the leader in times on Monday. Fix that. Thought I had that. Monday, November 24th, 2025. Joining me as always on the far side, Jim Rice. And it's Monday, which means Monday with the City Commission. And so we have Jeff Parsons here with us as I keep changing the date here so that we get that right. Had a little bit of a morning here, so we appreciate your patience. Thanks for sticking with us and joining us. And I see you start to come on, so we appreciate that. So, Jeff, what a weekend. A little bit wet.
Yeah, wasn't that great?
Got a little rain?
Yeah, thunder yesterday.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it was great. We needed it.
We did.
Still need it.
Yeah. It's been a little while, and, you know, getting a little rain never hurts. And so we got a little of that. And we'll be watching the temperatures for you to see what your Thanksgiving is going to be like. We're going to get to that a little bit later in the show. And we're starting to take a peek ahead to also look at the parade. And I got to say, the city, you got to give them credit. The decorations are up.
Yep.
And I know the decorations are up on downtown. I heard maybe there's a couple of other, are there some other things you do? I know sometimes in the pool, I've seen some things in there at times.
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure where all that is at. I know, like I say, you were mentioned too before we went on that they're going to maybe do some things down by the fountain, which will be fun and new. But yeah, it's always good to see. I love it when those Christmas decorations go up and kind of signals a change in the seasons. And I've been wearing shorts for the last, however, but weather's finally forced me to switch to jeans, so which is always sad for me.
It's good to see the city getting in the mood for the holidays. You've got the decorations in the windows, the trees are out. You know, some people, I mean, I think now we're getting close enough. You know, some people say, when do you start?
Right.
And I think we're in a good spot, right?
Yeah, I'm usually an after Thanksgiving guy, but our outside stuff's already up and lit, so Julie had to do it this year for me, so I wasn't able to. So she did it I think we did it last weekend.
So you got everything up, and I know last week you guys had a commission meeting, and several things come out of that.
We didn't have a commission meeting last week.
You weren't here because you were hurt, so it was a week before.
Yeah. So we've got one tomorrow night.
Okay. Well, I didn't get to talk to you last week. What were some of the highlights?
You're going to make me try to think back 2 weeks ago.
I'm trying to think of some of the things that came up at that meeting. I may have to look up some of the coverage, but before we go back, let's look forward. What's on the agenda for tomorrow?
Yeah, we've got a pretty good agenda. We've got just looking here at my phone. We're going to approve the 2026 fee schedule. So everything we charge fees for, all the way down the line. From you'll buy a roll of trash bags, so you want to rent one of the buildings at a park, or play golf, or go swimming, or anything like that. So we set those for next year. We'll set those fees tomorrow night. So we'll do that, and then we're gonna accept some grant funds that are going to allow us to redo a couple of intersection streetlights systems. I think the one at Pershing and 54, and then I want to say 11th Street in Kansas.
Now these are ones that kind of do the timing thing?
Yeah, they're going to be a completely upgraded modern system with timing. You'll do the countdown for the crosswalks and those kind of things. They'll have cameras and things, so they'll be the brand new. And it's amazing how expensive those things are. So we're gonna accept some funds for a grant from KDOT. We'll accept about $300,000 worth of grants. and then we'll replace those signals. So that'll be good.
Yeah.
A nice upgrade.
And I know we did a separate story that you guys are doing a food drive to help collect food and help during the holiday season.
Yeah, down at City Hall. You know, with the government shutdown, you know, it cut benefits for folks, and so you know we in speaking to the different food cabinets or food pantries around town. So if you've got, you know, anything that would be a food pantry, a dry food, canned food, anything like that, I know they're accepting it down at City Hall. So, and it's been pretty successful. They've taken a couple of loads out already to different food pantries.
And so maybe you can tell us a little bit about how we're coming up on the holidays. How does that affect like scheduling? You know what you guys are doing down at City Hall for the holidays?
Yeah, I don't know about Christmas yet, but I know, you know, we're typically closed Thursday and Friday of Thanksgiving week. So if you got anything you need, get it Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. The folks get a 3-day weekend, and I'm not sure what the hours are going to be for Christmas. I'll let you know maybe next week. I'll find that out.
Sure. And we talked a little bit with Fornwalt out at the airport, and you guys are expecting some more traffic, right?
Yeah, I mean, we made it through the shutdown fine. They kept EAS funding in place, and so you know, we took we're going to start. One of the things we did last week, and you talk about looking back at the meeting, we approved an engineering contract with a firm to do the engineering. We're going to basically phase 1 of the new terminal project will be expanding the parking lot that's there. So, and the nice thing about this project is it's all paid 95% by federal government, Department of Transportation. So, do the engineering. Hopefully this year they'll pour concrete, and it'll be a big expansion, because where the new terminal is going to set is going to be where the current parking lot is. So, we're going to have to move that first before we can build the new terminal building. So that's phase 1. So we approved a contract with an engineering firm to do all the plans and things for that parking lot.
So when you look at that, do you look at like what numbers help you know what size? And obviously we want to plan for the future,
right?
And so how do you plan, like what is right for Liberal? Where do we want to go with it?
Right. So we, you know, right now if you've flown there, you know, of course we're being serviced by a regional jet, which will hold up to 50 passengers, and so, you know, traditionally we've had much smaller planes, and so our area, once you go through security, is very tight. So they've had to open that up and make that area bigger. So when you're looking ahead, you know, we want to make room to comfortably seat all those people, and then maybe at some point in time you pick up a second flight. So we will the new terminal building, the way it sounds, and the final engineering's not done on it yet, but it'll have 2 gates, and then it'll have seating past security for 2 plane loads of people. So it'll be a much bigger, much more comfortable area to wait in before boarding. And then, you know, it'll give TSA more room, and there'll be, you know, more room for rental cars and things, and then a whole lot more room for baggage claim and things like that. So it'll just be a serious upgrade from what we've got.
I was just nosing around some pricing, and I was checking flights to Orlando. Just in, you know, Orlando's kind of a place I like to check every now and then.
Right.
And the whole region, and I was checking in March, and the whole region, you could leave from Amarillo, you can leave from Garden, Liberal, Wichita, Oklahoma City. I checked Kansas City. I checked Denver, which is strange because we go to Denver.
Right.
But I was like, even if you drove to Denver. So the best price I could find anywhere was Wichita 470 and round trip. Then I just threw in Liberal, $4.69.
Yeah.
$1
Yeah,
cheaper.
right now we've got tremendous pricing, and you know, we've been putting stuff up on social media and things like that. We only have so much money we can spend, but you know, it's right now flying out of Liberal is really a bargain.
Those same
Uh,
dates from Garden City was over $1,000.
Yeah.
$4.69 out of Liberal.
Yeah. So we've got great pricing right now, and you know, encourage everybody to check out flying through here. It's, you know, I mean, how convenient is that when you're, you know, you make a 5-minute drive to the airport and you get to fly out of here, and you know, connections you can get anywhere from Denver. So, you know, you can right now and you know, we're getting fairly close to that magic number for us, which is 10,000 employments. Once we hit that magic number of 10,000 employments, then we get some extra money through Department of Transportation. So we always like to get that. So we're going to be close this year, and that means some extra funding, some things that we can do at the airport that we wouldn't normally be able to do, or we can, you know, bank that money for terminal project, or you know, seems like they're always updating runways and lights and ramps and things like that. So it's always good to have that money.
Well, and we got to showcase what we do have out there recently, because we had the
airfare.
The airfare,
Mhm.
yeah. And so that was nice to get to see what's going on out
Yeah.
there, and what kind of room we have. And you know, you go out there and you watch some of those takeoffs of these planes, and that funny car, you know, it was going over 200 miles an hour out there, that kind of thing. I mean, it shows what we really have. And then people got to go into the Air Museum, and maybe they haven't seen that in a while.
Right.
And it's always impressive when you go back in there and you see all the aircraft and all of that. I was talking with John T. Smith. They're putting together a plan for that other hangar that's right there, and trying to come up with a restoration program for that, because you'd hate to. That's, I think, one of the last remaining hangars from the World War II era.
Yeah.
And it's still all, you know, all still the way, you know, pretty much the way it was. So it may not end up being the way it was, but if you can still save the structure, you know, as a piece of history, same as with the depots years and years ago, save those. And then you guys recently put a new roof over there.
Yeah, we want to kind of preserve that, and those buildings were needing some maintenance.
And you got a grant.
I don't think we're quite done over there.
You got a grant from the, I think, the State Historical Society helped with that. So that was good. You guys also finished up the deal, I think, or at least it's out of your guys' hands, right? You guys did the...
No, we did. We finished up the deal. I don't know that the county has taken action on that but we signed our end of the contract to purchase the fire station, and so that'll wholly be used for city from now on. And then that provides some funding, so we purchased the county out of their portion, and that provides some funding so they can do some expansion on their building. So, you know, it's kind of a perfect situation. So I know Chief Kirk was excited about that, to be able to have that you know, that additional space in there. So it's just kind of a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, and I think everybody was agreeable that this is a good thing to have. I think the county is moving over to 18th Street. They basically already have.
Right, yeah.
And they've been functioning out of over there.
Yep.
And I think the city had been pretty much needing to use more of that space. And that. So it was a win-win for everybody.
100%, yeah.
So you get to go into that space. You get to, you know, I think it's like $500,000.
Yeah, and the county wants to add a couple of bays to their building, and those funds will allow that to happen. So yeah, it's really kind of a good situation. So it took us a while to get there, but we made it.
Yeah, you know, someone once told me that good things.
Yeah, nothing good happens fast. That's right. Yeah.
So, but it did get there.
It did.
So you got there, and looking over some other things that you guys had covered before. Something with the Kansas Department of Transportation grant.
Yeah, that's that grant that we're going to officially approve tomorrow night.
And what's that? That's the one for
That's
the
one
lights?
for the street lights, yeah.
Yeah.
Or for the stoplights.
Yep, yep. So
Yep.
that'll help with that.
Yep.
And so, you know, a lot of things going on. What do you do here? We're getting closer to the end of the year. You're only going to have what? Maybe 1 or 2 more
A
meetings?
couple more meetings. We got a meeting tonight, and then two in December. The last meeting in December is, you know, it's right before Christmas, and so, you know, that's usually a very quick meeting. We do some you know, some cleanup of you know, the finances and things. You got to, at the end of the year, you got to move a little money around, and so we'll do that next meeting. And it's usually, you know, 15 or 20-minute long meeting.
And I know that here towards the end of the year, you guys have been talking about maybe some different things you can do with Adventure Bay, and I think the city's going to be looking to get some input on
Right.
parade night.
Yeah. So we're going to during the parade, we've gotten some things from a company called Water's Edge. They do you know, they do water parks and kind of all over this region, and they've given us some things to look at. So during the parade, we're going to open up City Hall, and we'll serve, you know, hot chocolate, coffee, and things like that, so folks can stay warm. But while you're in there getting some refreshments, you know, we'd like to have you give us some input on what you'd like to see at Adventure Bay, because we're going to have to redo that, and so we want to make sure that we're getting some input from the folks. One of the things we're doing tomorrow night is we're going to hire a company to come in and kind of take a look at our plumbing and piping and things like that. So in order to do a big renovation, we're going to have to keep Adventure Bay going for 1 more year. And so we want to bring in a company to kind of look at where our plumbing situation is, if anything, you know, is in desperate need of repair, to keep that thing limping along for 1 more year before we do anything major. So
Yeah, I was at the Focus meeting last week, and Scarlett mentioned, I mean, it could be anywhere from, you know, making some minor things to like really an expansion of the park. You're talking about a few $1 million, but it would be
easily,
a completely new, almost a new park.
Yep. So it'll be, you know, what we're looking at is some different, you know, what do you call them, attractions in there. You know, maybe a lazy river, a small lazy river, or you know, a surfing thing. You know, some different slides and things like that. But it's going to be a big project. It needs to be looked at again. So we're going to have some ideas for folks to look at and get everybody's input. So
yeah, see, as I get older, the lazy river sounds a whole lot better. Yeah, and just get on a raft or a tube or whatever, and just that, and you're done. You're just going to move. The water's going to move you.
Yep,
you don't have to do climb any stairs. You don't have to. But I remember the original plan. You probably remember it.
Oh yeah.
There was a 3-phase deal. It was going to be the original Adventure Bay, and then the lazy river, and then the wave machine, so you can do the little surfing thing on that. And I'll always remember what Ivanhoe told me. You better get what you want in phase 1, because phase 2 and 3 probably never happen on projects.
Well, this is a very delayed phase 2.
Yeah, well, you know, nothing good happens fast.
That's right.
But there's a possibility, and I was asking about, is there a possibility on this remodel, re-expansion, whatever, that a pool actually gets to become regulation size? You know.
Yeah, I don't know. The pool out there is actually regulation size.
Is it?
It is, and they use it for meets now.
25. It's the 25 meter, isn't it?
Yeah. So it actually, and during the summer, gets used for meets. It's the indoor part of that equation that is not regulation. So that's an additional conversation.
And that's one that some in the community, with the college and the school district, that's big, because they need to, you know, be engaged in that solution. And I think the school district probably needs to take the leadership role, because, you know, you wouldn't have a football team without a football field.
Right.
You wouldn't have, you know, tennis without tennis courts. Now, there's a great partnership with the city to get to use the city tennis courts. There's a great partnership with the city to get to use the baseball fields and the softball fields and all of that. But the swimming pool, I mean, that's like really the school needs to have some.
Right. Oh yeah, and I'm fairly confident that that's the direction everything's sort of headed in right now. That project will probably be led by the school district.
I think so too, and I think that they're in the best position. I think because they have the ability to uh, have the liquidity
Yeah.
to make some of that happen.
Yep.
And without it really affecting taxpayers, because
Yeah.
I mean they may have to take it to a vote, but I don't think it changes anything because I think they already have
Yep.
um, the cash structure without having to raise a dime
Right.
in taxes.
Yep. I think their excuse me, their building funds are in pretty good shape, and it's for those funds. I think of course you got pockets for all different kinds of funds, and it has to be for for school use, and so that's probably the likely way that's going to go.
Yeah,
and I know that the college is talking about helping in ways. I know the city is too. So it'll be a joint project, probably spearheaded by the school district.
Yeah, and then I think the college has always been willing to manage the facility
Right.
and man the facility through the daytime and all of that, and then the school district doesn't need it throughout the day. It needs it, practice
Right.
and meets and all that kind of stuff. And it'd be
Right.
great if we had a facility that had spectator space too.
Mhm.
If you're a parent, you want to see
Mhm.
your kids swim, it'd be nice to
Right.
be able to do that.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be interesting to see. I saw where Garden City just opened up their new facility that has all those gyms in it.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what that's called. They have a name.
I
for
couldn't
that.
tell you if that is a Star Bond project, and so that's that's still on our radar, some sort of Star Bond project, and that's looking a little more real all the time. So.
And we're looking at more not just some recreational space, but some commercial as well, aren't we?
Commercial, residential. I mean, we're still at the dreaming about it stage, for sure. But yeah, we've kind of taken a look at a kind of a whole series of things. So ours probably will go a little different direction than Garden City.
So when you guys, I mean, how you guys put the whole comprehensive plan together, you had a whole series of meetings, you brought in an outside firm and all that. When you're talking about Star Bond, what's the process? How does that move
Yeah,
forward?
I think much the same way. You kind of got to get a scope and say, okay, well, this is how much money we think we've got to spend, and then you bring in the community and say, okay, well, what would you like to see, and maybe you bring in a firm, maybe you don't need necessarily. At some point in time, you'll have to bring in architects and all that kind of thing, but the dreaming about it stage, which is where we're at now. When we get a little farther down the road and we start looking at, okay, well, how are we going to fund this thing, and then we'll bring in the public and get their input on it for sure.
Well, it's I just loved how the conversation evolved. When you get people in a room, it's amazing, and they're all thinking about how do we move this thing forward, looking at maps,
Yep.
looking at different parts of the community and saying, well, what could work here? What could work there? Oh, look at this space.
Yeah.
Well, what if we put a road in here? Well, then what if you did this on that road? What if you did that on that road? And all of this discussion starts to formulate a plan.
Right.
And isn't it kind of fun when you're in those
Yeah, it
conversations?
is, and that was very organic, and that was very exciting, that whole evening, and how that kind of came around. So.
And if you have a blank slate, an area that doesn't have anything, you can dream whatever you
Yep.
want to dream.
Yep.
You can look at downtown and you can say, I wish they would have made the road this way. I wish they would have done this. I wish they would have done that. But it is what it is. But if you're building something brand new,
Right.
you can think of all those things, right?
Exactly. Right. Yeah, and hopefully, 80 years from now, they won't go, oh, these
They
guys
should have
really
done
messed
this.
it up.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Cars flying, they'll probably say,
Right.
why didn't they put some
Right.
helipads
Yeah,
in here?
yeah,
Why didn't they
yeah,
do?
yeah. Well, they built everything on the ground. What were they thinking?
Oh, I can't wait for that day. I am
Yeah.
seeing, some of this technology with these drones, and flight, and I don't think they're far from, not necessarily, we think flying cars, some like defying gravity. I don't think that's necessarily what it's going to be. I think it's just going to be small aircraft.
Yeah.
Smaller aircraft, like individual aircraft, You know, you see these fans, these and batteries getting better.
Yep.
And I probably had when I was a teenager one of the first battery powered. It was it was for water, but it was a hover boat. And I better have fun in 3 minutes because that's all the time I had. You had to charge batteries for 3 hours for
Right.
3 minutes of fun. But that's come a long way.
Yeah.
That technology.
Yep.
And so it's interesting to see how that's going. But this Star Bond, that would be a great opportunity for us to really dream anew.
Yeah.
And and it's not just one location, one area, right? It could be community wide.
No, it can be community wide. Yeah. So you can spread the project out over several different areas if you want to. So.
Well, that's one thing I keep hitting John T. Smith. He's on the MAM Foundation. We're talking about that building out there. One of the things I'd love to see in it is space for traveling exhibits, because I think that can really help our community. If we had that space where we could bring in the Jewels of the Pharaohs, the traveling Titanic, the traveling Holocaust. There's all kinds of these things that crisscross the country, and you just get on their schedules, and you get on there for a couple, 3 weeks. Sometimes it's a month, but man, what we could bring people to Liberal to come in and see these traveling exhibits would be a big time deal. And I hope that Star Bond, this remodel, I can't remember how many thousands and thousands of square feet he told me that building is.
It's big, yeah. It's a big building.
Yeah. Well, it used to house aircraft.
Yeah. Bombers.
Yeah. So maintain that piece of history, but still be a living part of the community, just like the depot. I mean, it's not just there to look at. It's the chamber headquarters. It's got a restaurant in over here. It's got public meetings going on all the time inside there. So I mean, it's a living, breathing part of the community.
Absolutely is. Yeah, sure is.
And to have another opportunity with the building out there, like that, I also hit him up and asked, is there any way to tie in the STEM jet into that project and get that going too? So I mean, it's a great thing that we're talking about a vision for the future, because if you're always just like, well, we got to fill this pothole, we got to fill that pothole,
right?
And those things are happening.
They all
the
have
time.
to be done, right?
Yeah. But then to say, but now where are we trying to go? And now that we have a comprehensive plan, and that keeps some things on the burner, talking about moving this overpass forward, other projects like that, revisiting downtown. You're going to have a meeting talking about how to reimagine the water park,
right?
All kinds of things going on.
Yep. We've been talking with the company about doing some industrial buildings out on the edge of town, and so that all fits into that plan as well. So, and we've started the process. We've had just one of them so far, but the first commission meeting date of every month, we're gonna get together a bit early and have work session, and so once a month we'll be looking at different things and kind of working through ideas, and to me that's very exciting in that we've set aside some regular time to kind of look forward and do some planning. So hopefully some of these things will be worked into that too as well. Well,
and that's the key, is you got to have those conversations. You got to be investing a little time in the dreaming.
Yeah.
And without that, we'll never, we'll just constantly be filling the potholes. But like this consumption district and other ideas like that, everything, it may not be my thing. It doesn't have to be my thing. It doesn't have to be everybody's thing. But if it's somebody's thing and we're doing a little something for everybody, then we're moving things forward.
Yeah, it makes for a happy town.
It does. And the parks are nice. I mean, are they? I guess we're getting close to the time. Have they already shut the bathrooms down?
They have, yeah. They shut them down.
Because we're getting close to freezing.
Yep. I think after this week, it kind of freezes every night for a while. So, they've been closed down for a while.
I know it's going to happen, but man, I was saying, gosh, can we get through the parade before we start getting the...
Yeah, I'm not sure you're going to make it.
Yeah. Well, you also want that Christmas feel with the parade.
Sure, yeah.
So, got to have that going.
Yep.
Well, we'll give you the last word. Anything I didn't ask you?
One thing I wanted to mention is to shift gears, and my wife is the president of the board at Baker Arts, and so there's an opportunity through the Western Kansas Community Foundation. Baker Arts has a match program through them. So if you're looking at year-end giving, so now through the 2nd of December, which is a little over a week away, there's the opportunity to get a match from that foundation of dollar for dollar match of up to $2,000. So I think they've got $150,000 set aside for this match, which would give Baker Arts some very much needed operating money. You can get grants for literally everything, with the exception of operating money. And so you gotta pay folks, and you gotta pay utility bills, and you gotta mow the lawn, and you gotta do all those things, and that can't be got through grant funding. So they rely on the folks in Liberal and the surrounding area to help them with operating money. So now's a good time if you're doing some thinking about year-end giving. Now's a great time to help out Baker Arts, which is I think it does wonderful things for our community. So
absolutely.
That's my plug. If you're interested in that, call my wife Julie Parsons at Keating Tractor, or if you know any of the board members, or you can just call Baker Arts, and they can, there's a procedure for that. Make sure it gets done correctly. Talk to them about that. But they would, it's a great facility and does great things in the community. And so if you'd like to participate in that, now's a great time.
I would
shameless plug there.
Yeah. Well, I'd say one thing I differ with you on is when you say mowing the lawn, that can be art.
Well, mine gets striped when I do mine. So,
well, go to some of these ball fields.
Yeah.
And they'll put their logo in it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how they do that, but they can mow the logo
right
and get the right angles and all that stuff, and it looks pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I've just been amazed over the last several years to see the expansion of the campus at Baker Arts. Adding that kitchen next door has been a big deal. The grounds look better than ever. You guys put that wrought iron around it, and then you put the parking space
on 7th Street. Yep,
that's big. I mean, it's just been a great rebirth of the whole center.
Yeah, and it takes more money to operate now, and so they're just now on the finishing up the last details on their building to house artists in residence, and so they've got a place for that, and so yeah, I think they're doing some great things, and if you'd like to help with that, now's the perfect opportunity.
So you can give and get it matched. So every dollar you give, there's another dollar going in. So for every 100 you give, there's another 100 going in.
Right, exactly.
So, I mean, if you're going to give, now's the time to do it. And if you've gotten with your accountant here at the end of the year and said you better spend some stuff down, then here's a chance, right?
Right. Yeah. And even if you don't have to.
Yeah. Do it anyway.
Do it anyway. Yeah, exactly.
So, and I think that's the Western Kansas Foundation.
Western Kansas Community Foundation.
Community Foundation. Yeah, doing that.
Yeah, and that's great. Yeah, that's an organization that Baker Arts has been just, they're sort of new with that organization. But gosh, I mean, to set aside $150,000, that's tremendous. Now all we have to do is go out and collect it.
Yeah.
So
does that mean if the community gives 150, you get 150?
Yes,
so it could be a 300,000?
Well, no, I think it's a
75
and 75. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but $150,000 will go a long ways to help Baker Arts operate for this next coming year.
Yeah. So get a hold of them at Baker Arts Center, and I think the director is.
Well, no, we've got a new director.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Misty Martin is the name of the new director. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Misty Martin over at, and it's most of it's 7th and Pershing. Go to 7th and Pershing and pop in there and write your check. I'm sure they'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And help out. Great. You can also be a member of Baker Arts Center.
Right. Yep. They've got all sorts of membership levels, and from individuals to family, and so yeah, it's a great thing.
Another gift idea: if you say, "I want to go to the Baker, but I can't find someone to go with me," well, gift them a membership.
There you go.
Say, guess what? You can go with me from now on because I got you a membership.
Yep.
And get them in there.
Yeah. They've got a new exhibit getting ready to start called Journey to Bethlehem.
Oh yeah.
So local artists will be kind of doing their interpretation of that journey to Bethlehem.
Yeah, and I loved that last year. The Stations of the Cross. That was great. And now Journey to Bethlehem. I know a couple of the artists. I can't wait to see what they come up with.
Yeah.
And you know when that opens?
I don't. It's it'll be open, I think, most of the month of December. So
yeah. So watch for that. That's another good thing going on at Baker Arts Center. So another reason to help. Well, Jeff, we appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
And sharing with us. We're going to have some more news and views for you, and we're going to do that right after this.
Our loved ones leave an impression on us, and it's important to make sure their lasting impression honors the life they led. Since 1956, the Jones family has been providing lasting legacies to the lives of our loved ones, and that torch has now been passed to the Creekmore family. The commitment to compassion continues by offering the largest inventory in stock in the region with in-house custom craftsmanship that makes sure each piece is as unique as the life it represents. With a combined 82 years of experience and professional designers on staff, Jones Monument continues to provide affordable pricing and convenient turnaround times. They are ready to serve you from 9:30 to 5 Monday through Friday and 9:30 to noon on Saturday. Yes, our loved ones may have passed, but the memorial left behind stands as a testament to our never-ending love. The staff at Jones Monument understands that, and that's why providing monuments is more than a sideline at Jones Monument. That's all they do. Visit Jones Monument when you're ready to make an impression beyond a lifetime.
Fall off the bone ribs dripping with our signature barbecue sauce. Tender pulled pork and brisket smoked to perfection. All served with family recipe home-style sides. It's all waiting for you at the Brick House Barbecue and Brew. Open 7 days a week, your barbecue appetite can be satisfied anytime for lunch or dinner. Brick House serves full dinners, combos, sandwiches, and take-home packs. Enjoy a variety of brews on tap or a mixed drink. Shaken, not stirred. Give your taste buds a treat at Brick House Barbecue and Brew, 24 East 2nd Street in Liberal. Like us on Facebook and see our full menu at brickhouselk.com.
Our loved ones leave an impression on us, and it's important to make sure their lasting impression honors the life they led. Since 1956, the Jones family has been providing lasting legacies to the lives of our loved ones, and that torch has now been passed to the Creekmore family. The commitment to compassion continues by offering the largest inventory in stock in the region with in-house custom craftsmanship that makes sure each piece is as unique as the life it represents. With a combined 82 years of experience and professional designers on staff, Jones Monument continues to provide affordable pricing and convenient turnaround times. They are ready to serve you from 9:30 to 5 Monday through Friday and 9:30 to noon on Saturday. Yes, our loved ones may have passed, but the memorial left behind stands as a testament to our never-ending love. The staff at Jones Monument understands that, and that's why providing monuments is more than a sideline at Jones Monument. That's all they do. Visit Jones Monument when you're ready to make an impression beyond a lifetime.
Is it on the bottom?
Here we go.
There we go.
Well, always good to have Jeff come in and tell us what's going on with the city.
Yep, never a dull moment over there, you know.
Yep. And the holidays, I think Liberal does it up right. I always think that I know it's Christmas when I start seeing the windows, the painting going on, the decorations out, and great time.
Yep, even a lot of the houses are starting to collect stuff. I seen one who was putting up his Christmas lights and they still had the big time skeleton out in the front the other day. I mean, that skeleton must have been 14 foot tall. He's a big one.
Steve Mertz reminded us that the name of that place over in Garden City is called the Refinery. So I saw a video of it. It's got these little meeting rooms and stuff like that, but it's got like 6 or 7 basketball courts in it. It's made to host tournaments. It's made to bring people to town. That's what it's made for. And so that's what you're going to see going on in Garden City. And and like Jeff said, we can start dreaming about, a star bond. They did that with a star bond. Why can't we?
Yeah. Well, no reason other than somebody's got to get it moving.
They do, and so we'll keep our eye on that and keep you informed as that moves along. That's going to take a while. A star bond's not an overnight deal, and like he said, it's kind of like the comprehensive plan. It'll take, meetings and a lot of community conversations and all that kind of thing. And we'll want to remind everyone, not that you need to be, but 4 days to Thanksgiving, Thursday,
Right.
or 3 if you want to count. If you don't count today, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 days to Thanksgiving.
Well, it's coming. There ain't nothing you can do about it. You just got to get ready.
I'm excited about it to have the kids coming back, and always good to have the family back in and get to visit them and catch up with them and fuss with them. You get tired of fussing with the same people. You got to fuss with some different people.
Now you know why you moved them out.
So have those fun conversations. But no, looking forward to those guys. The daughters coming in and how things are going. Got one and are going to be starting her last semester here soon.
Boy, then what's she going to do?
They don't have any in school other than the wife. The wife can't get out of school.
Well, there you go. She's just permanent fixture.
Yep. I guess when you're the teacher, you're going to be in school the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So got that. Excuse me. Excuse me. The pole decorations are going up down.
Yeah. Let's see, when was that? Friday, Saturday? Boy, they was out in force there the other day. There was, 3 or 4 of them been worked on. So it's coming about.
We're going to get ours out there this week. So I think they got all the pieces of the puzzle. Got that going. And Steve mentions that Garden City had a billionaire Cecil Obrate. And a lot of people don't know that, Steve. When you look over there at the Shulman Mall or whatever they call that area, with a lot of that business expansion, that's because a billionaire did that. That wasn't like the city did this or the city did that for Garden City. That was private. That was a guy dropping a lot of his own cash.
Yeah. Yeah, there's buildings all over town up there. I think there's, several of them that he invested in, and that certainly helps.
Doesn't hurt any.
No,
and you're just leaving your billion in the bank.
yeah, that's right. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what we're going to do here.
But yeah, it's nice to have someone who can contribute like that to help make community a better place, and never knock somebody for investing in their own community, and we encourage it here. We'd love to have that local investment, and I think like you think about Conestoga, and I think that's an example of it. You had a bunch of local guys came together and said, you know what, this takes ag to the next level.
Yeah.
What if we pulled that enzyme out of the corn before something cow can't produce anyway, they can't process it. We pull that out, we turn that into ethanol, and we can still use the rest of it for feeding the cows.
Yeah.
And everybody wins on this deal. And so Nick Hatcher and a bunch of other guys, I think Rock Ormiston and some of those other guys got together and put something really nice together.
Yep. Yeah, it's a valuable resource, for cattle feed and fuel and carbon dioxide. You even had an offer. Had you had a place for it, you had an offer the other day for, they could
CO2.
Yeah, CO2 to pump your Pepsi out.
Yeah.
Your Coke. Anyway.
Information I could have used several years ago.
There you go.
Now, when we had the theater, you have a big tank in there, and a semi would come up and hook up and fill it back up with gas, and then so now, if you ever been in a restaurant and you start hearing that psh, psh, psh sound, That tells me
That's
we're
it.
wasting CO2. Somebody get that fixed, because that's what it's doing. It's shooting CO2 every time you hear that. And so what happens is if the concentrate, that's the soda pop, comes in a bag, and then you connect the deal on the bag, and then it's pulling in the syrup and mixing it with the CO2. But if that bag runs out, and it can't pump that anymore, then you just hear that gas shooting,
Hear that?
and so like, stop doing that, go change the bag.
Yeah.
And so you got to go back and put the new bag of soda back, reconnect that, and then life goes on. But one of the many things you learn when you're running a concession stand.
Well, that's it. Everything's connected one way or the other, I guess. So.
Well, and some people use it in a cylinder. You can get that gas in a cylinder,
Oh yeah.
kind of like you'd get propane, but it's a skinnier, taller cylinder, and you can get it that way.
Well,
but
he was talking about a semi-load, though.
that's how, yeah. And I bet you they, when I was listening to them talk about that plant, it sounds like they're really committed to being green also. I mean, that they're environmentally trying to do everything they can to be as environmentally aware, and doing that as well.
Well, that's basically what ethanol is green energy. I mean, I remember years ago when you go to Denver and some of these larger cities, LA or wherever, and there was that old yellow cloud hanging around, and that's no longer there. And it's mainly due to the effects of ethanol eliminating that. So, there's clear blue skies now in a lot of places where you couldn't see. There was smog. And I remember years ago, my grandparents lived in Santa Ana, California, and you go out there and they were talking about smog. That was, long before we ever, even heard the word. But, then it became greater and greater as the number of vehicles, were manufactured and driven around. But that was, smog was their thing then. But anyway, ethanol took care of a lot of that.
Yeah. And it also helped. We talked a little bit about that additive fuel you used to have, and that ethanol replaced that.
Talk about running your drinking water, that'd do it.
Yeah. And
that'd do it.
So that got that off the market and replaced it with something much more friendly. So, no, I was really learned a lot listening to those guys talk about the plant and what it does and the service it provides. And then they're going to put another $150 million into that thing pretty soon.
Yeah, that should be very interesting, to develop those corn stalks. Corn stover, I guess is what they call it, but it's basically the leaves and the stalks, and turn that into the more ethanol for airplanes. And, I don't know whether that'd do away with the vapor trails or not, but, I think that's probably an interesting project and certainly a new industry that hasn't really been dealt with very much. I think that plant over at Houston that the federal government invested, $400+ million in, was supposed to do that, but it kind of failed. And so anyway, but these guys are going to, I think probably they're going to make it work because they're privately owned and their money's the ones that's going into it. And, there's no big federal money probably going to be attached to that. So they're going to make it work, and kind of looking forward to how that grows.
And they bought Sapphire.
Yep.
And are going to start the process of producing jet fuel.
Yeah.
Ethanol jet fuel.
Yep.
I wonder what kind of vapor trail that leaves, or if it does.
I don't know. It'd be high octane, whatever it is. I don't know.
Like to see how those jets move across the sky.
They might go faster. Who knows?
And
we'll see.
Get you from here to there
a
little quicker. Well, you remember the big hullabaloo of these 6 Democrats who went on and said, military, you don't have to follow illegal orders.
Yep.
Well, Alyssa Slotkin was kind of one of the lead ringleaders of that deal, from a Democrat from Michigan, and she was asked on ABC's This Week about, well, what issues, what orders has he issued that have been illegal that you're concerned about? And she said, well, she's not aware of any, that he, not aware that he has made any illegal uh, um, orders. Then what's this all about? We know what it's all about. It's just playing politics is what it's all about.
Opposing Trump. That's the whole deal. Noticed there was a couple of headlines in Gateway Pundit this morning said Trump suggests Hegseth using military courts to investigate Democrats who called for military sedition and a coup. That was a treacherous statement. I know they're looking into it militarily, so I don't know whether they're going to, perhaps press charges against those folks and some of them were former military members, and they should have known better than that. But and then like you said a minute ago, when they pressed them on, well, what illegal demands did he put forth? Well, he didn't really put any. We was just warning ahead of time, and they're kind of running for cover a bit. And then there's another headline there that said Klobuchar delivers insane word salad when asked what specific illegal order Trump issued the military. And so even she's having trouble deciding. They should have done their homework before they did that. It's always kind of important to, look into those things when somebody suggests we come up with a group and, as a group and let's just do this, to harm Trump. And so I think that's kind of where they're at. But anyway, a lot of controversy over that. And will charges be made? I don't know. That remains to be seen. But there's some folks who are seriously looking into it.
Well, they covered their bases, I think, good enough. I don't believe there should be any charges, because they just said if he orders, provides an illegal, if he were to tell the military, go assassinate Clinton. Well, obviously that would be an illegal order. You would know that and say, no, we can't do that. We're not doing that. It'd be no different if we said right here, hey, if the mayor says, to do something illegal, police don't do it. That's not sedition for saying that. Now if they said, if he tells you something, whether it's constitutional or not, we don't want you to do it. That's political. And that's what they're really playing. They're trying to play politics, but they're trying to make it look as legitimate as possible by saying, if he orders you to do anything that's unconstitutional, you can refuse those orders. You could have said the same thing about Biden. If he asks you to do something illegal, don't do it. You can say the same thing about me. If Earl tells you to do something illegal, don't do it. Like, what did I told anybody? So they've given themselves enough cover. It isn't good, because there's a lot of crackpots out there. And when you go saying stuff like this, you're going to encourage someone to do something stupid. That's the problem, is, they're not taking responsibility for their language because they think it scores them political points. And you can score political points and bring this country to collapse when you do stuff like that. And it's just like, I can't remember her name, I think it was Crockett. She was on the House floor talking about all these people that had gotten money from Epstein. The problem was, it was a Dr. Epstein. It was a different guy named Jeffrey Epstein. But she was talking about everybody who got money from this Epstein. And that if she had said that anywhere but the House floor, she could have been charges on that. And it wasn't that she just didn't know what she's talking about. She said her team had done the research, and she was sharing all this. It's like, well, one thing they forgot was to find out that there's not just one Jeffrey Epstein.
There's a whole bunch of them folks up there that don't know what they're talking about, as far as I can see.
Yeah.
They just kind of go with the flow and make up stuff, and I don't know. It's pretty sad. see the situation we've let our government get into because of the non-involvement. You know, just sent these people there to represent us, thinking that well they're going to do right, and come to find out they're doing what's right for them in a lot of cases, and not necessarily right for the people. And I think I was reading the thing here this morning on said a wave of congressional retirements has set the stage for a high stakes 2026 midterm election that will decide which party controls the House and the Senate for President Donald Trump's final 2 years in office. There are 38 House members and 8 senators not seeking re-election so far. More Republicans and Democrats are leaving the House as both parties battle for control of the chamber. So far, 16 Democrats and 23 Republicans are retiring from the House. On the Senate side, 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans are stepping aside. Republicans currently control the Senate with 53 seats compared to 47 for Democrats, which includes 2 independents which caucus with them. So anyway, there's, I know the headlines here the last couple of days has been Marjorie Taylor Greene deciding to quit in January and all of that. And then, a lot of ideas been tossed out there. She's not really treating her constituents fair because they elected her to represent their district in Georgia, and now then she's up and quitting. And so, there's a lot of concerns, a lot of controversy, some satisfaction, I guess, in seeing some of those resign. Nancy Pelosi is one of them that I think, for a lot of folks, that's kind of satisfaction to see that she's about to bow out. But anyway, who will come back and replace these? It's kind of up in the air right now with all of the. And then I think that's the reason the Democrats are casting so much, or trying to cast so much doubt on Trump's and that administration. Because we need to get our fellow Democrats back in there so we can do what we want to do. Well, we had an example of that about 3 years ago, starting 4 years ago, whenever it was. And people got short memories, I guess. But I remember what Joe Biden did, and it was pretty scary stuff. Or well, I say what Joe Biden did. I don't know whether he did it because I kind of question how able to make decisions he really was. Did a lot of signing of documents with the auto pen, which is still in controversy. Was what he did, and what he signed really him, or was it the auto pen? And it's pretty clear that the ones that he signed personally and the auto pen. So, but anyway, we're going to see, because there is an election coming up, and we're going to see what direction the country goes.
We will. And it's been a lot of hyperbole up till now. We'll have to see. Then I think the first 6 months of 2026 are going to be critical to see if, once the big beautiful bill takes effect in January, if it's really going to bring relief to people, if it's going to get the prices down or stabilized. I think just like under Biden, they'd say, well, things are coming down, but people aren't feeling it. Well, I think right now you can say the same thing. People just aren't feeling it. They don't believe that the economy has gotten better for them. And until they can actually feel that, the party, whichever party is in control, they're the ones that are going to take the heat.
Yep. Don't make any difference how you were set up. Do we want instant satisfaction?
That's right.
I mean, the day Trump took office, everything should have changed and been better for everybody. But it don't work that way.
No, but to his, I have to say, he put it out that it would. He put it out, as soon as I'm president, you're going to see relief. And when you do that, you better deliver, because they're going to be on you. Yeah. Remember, he said that the Ukraine war would be over in days. Well, It's getting closer, but
So the thing he didn't tell you how many days.
yeah. Well, and the price of groceries. Walmart said, according to Trump, that prices were down about 25% from last year for a Thanksgiving dinner.
Nah. Once grocery prices go up,
They don't come back.
They don't come back down very little. They might come back down, a little bit, but it won't be anything back to square one where they started.
So I'm a rib guy. So what I look for is $1.79 a pound. But I haven't been back to $1.79 a pound in a long, long time. Every now and then on a sale, I can get $1.99, which I still consider that a victory.
Yeah, I remember when you could buy a rack of them for $7, $8. Now they're 15. Well, they're going to get them down to 11 maybe, and you'll think that's a real bargain, but it's still quite an increase. So anyway, but it's just funny how that always works. But the sad part of it is the price of pork live on the hoof hasn't really changed that much. It's been pretty steady along the way. Same way with beef and other things. Grain. As a matter of fact, grain prices are probably as low now as they have been for quite some time. But you don't see the price of a loaf of bread coming down, or a box of Wheaties, or any of that. It's if you could control that, by the price that it was on at the farm gate, that the farmer would have paid for it, we could have some cheap food. If we don't get that lined out, we're going to have really expensive food, because they're putting these farmers out of business and like crazy. I mean, I was watching a deal, I think it was in Arkansas the other day, and they were talking about how many bankruptcies. Reminded me of back in 1979 when the farmers took their tractors to Washington. And it's going on again. These guys are just having trouble refinancing, and banks is letting them go, and they're having to go into bankruptcy. Well, that's going to be another wave of farmers that disappear. And I don't know where it stops, but we need to figure out a way to get that price at the farm gate, and get it connected to the price of food in the grocery store. That's what I always thought about old Barry Flinchball when he was an economist from Kansas State. I was at a meeting one time, and somebody said, "Barry, we need to tie your salary to the price of a bushel of wheat. Things would certainly change. You'd have a different outlook." Never did, but that's kind of the way a lot of that stuff needs to go.
What do you think about this discussion that the president's talking about because of these tariffs has brought in a lot of money to the federal government? He's talking about $2,000 checks. What's your thought on that?
I think if they got that much money, they ought to pay the national debt down. I mean, a couple of $1,000s that you don't have, if somebody would give to, I don't know that it's that much difference, but I think probably more important would be to pay the national debt down. And that would probably benefit the American consumers a lot more than, a couple $1,000.
Yeah, my concern is you do that, and all you're going to do is you're going to drive prices back up.
Yeah.
Because you're going to have a run on toilet paper, run on groceries, run on consumer price deals, $2,000, television sets, whatever. And that's just not going to help.
Yep. Well, you could pay that on consumer debt as far as that goes, pay off credit card bills, pay off loans. But I think better yet is just to pay the national debt down, just to show them that you can.
Temporary little hits just don't do anything. We need permanent change. When you talk about the price of childcare, so you give someone $2,000 and they put it towards childcare, but then after that's out, they're right back where they were.
Yeah.
The problem is still there.
Yeah.
So you've got to get to the point where we're not having to subsidize this stuff, but we're going to get it down to ongoing get this price down.
Yeah.
What can we do to help reduce the price of child care? What can we do to help reduce the price of
Yeah.
health care? Instead of here's some money to just pour into it, what we got to do is get the overall cost down where people can say,
Yeah.
now on what I'm making, now I can afford to
Yeah.
do that.
Well, you know, I think rules and regulations are a main driver of higher prices. You know, there's so many things going on now that, you know, I mean, it just drives the price of about anything higher and higher with government restrictions and requirements and all that. And we need a good overhaul of common sense, using common sense to eliminate a lot of this government overreach. And that's not happening, you know, and just feeding the monkey more money isn't gonna solve it.
And I know that looks like, you know, you're doing something, you're not. I mean, it's not a good way to govern, I don't think, and to move forward. I think the best way is fundamental change of the process that gets the cost down permanently,
Yeah.
and then people can handle it. That's and the meeting between Trump and Mamdani. You know, yeah, they've got 100 things they disagree with, but they found 2 or 3 where they could agree and say, so let's work on how do we get costs down? How are we going to get costs down for people? Because you can get costs down, like Trump said. If I can get the price of fuel down, that helps people in New York. If we can get the price of shipping down, that helps people in New York. Everything that we do that can help everyone can also help the people in New York, and you know, things like that. So I think that even and what a lesson for both sides. Here's 2 people that really diametrically are opposed in almost every way, shape, or form, but they say, but our goal is the same. Let's get costs down. Okay, now let's look at how we get costs down. But if they can talk about commonalities, I mean, who would have ever thought Mamdani and Trump would have came out and had the press conference they
Yeah.
had?
Well, you know, but they're still, I mean, 180 degrees opposed to how they're going to go about getting costs down. You know, one of them wants to turn everything over to government. And as anybody that can think straight knows that, you know, government is not going to be able to, you know, hold that price down unless they take more of your money, you know, to give to folks and subsidize the thing. You know, you have to look at, like I said a minute ago, rules, regulations, restrictions, you know, all of those things that cause these prices to increase, you know, transportation costs, you know, whatever it is. I know they're thrilled, and so are most folks that the price of gas and diesel is coming down. Noticed this morning it was $2.47 up here, I believe it was, something like that, $2.47, $2.49. So that has came down a ways. You know, that should help in transportation costs. But you know, you have to look at things like that, and I think Mamdani's idea of bringing the cost down and making it affordable is control. You know, he's talking about rent control. You know, and talking about, you know, bringing government funded grocery stores. You know, that's not going to bring the price of anything down for very long because somebody's going to have to subsidize that. You know, all of that kind of stuff that he's talking about. So they're, you know, they might have found a couple of things that they could agree on, but I think the way of getting to those things were probably 2 different avenues, and people's got to figure out which one it is. You want more of course, you know, you always like to spend everybody else's money, but not yours. You know, but his idea of taxing the rich, well, guess what? The rich are going to pack their suitcase and they're going to leave. And then what do you do when they're gone? You know, so you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot the way I see it, is to think that, well, we're just going to tax the rich more. Of course, that's the famous war cry from the Democrat side as well. The rich is not paying their fair share. Well, I wonder if they were paying 100% of it, that would be their fair share, or would they demand more? So, you know, but somehow, you know, we've got to work on what caused that price to go up, and you know, other than I guess probably the ability to make it go up, you know, but you know, it's just two different avenues of thinking there for sure on how we're going to get prices down or make it affordable for consumers.
It is, and those are the things that we got to consider, and it's going to be interesting to see how they continue these discussions to do that. And I still feel good about opposite sides coming together to have the conversation.
Yeah.
And I, you know, I know there'll be haters on both sides of that, but I'm like, hey, you know, I don't like Mandami, but if there's something that can be done that keeps freedom, let's see what happens. And he doesn't like Trump, and his people don't like Trump. But if Trump's saying, let's see what we can work on, I'm all for that. What do you think about how the conversation has come on the Ukraine? You know, there was this multi-point, I think 18 points or whatever. It seemed like most of it favored Russia, but now they backed off saying, no, we're not saying Thursday was the deadline. That was just to get your first response. Now, let's kind of go in the back and forth here. What do you think about where they're at on that?
Well, I guess there is some kind of an agreement. It's like a 21 point settlement to stop the war. I don't know exactly what it is, but anyway, they've been working on it. I know Secretary of State Marco Rubio was talking about it a little bit, and he seemed to think that things were moving towards a peace settlement, and so you know they are working on it, and that's one of Trump's main things that we was talking a minute ago. He promised, well, he'd have that war settled in a few days. Well, that hasn't worked yet, but you know, as long as the money keeps flowing. They were showing some pictures on TV the other day of these golden toilets, you know, and that was all purchased with U.S. money. And I thought, what in the world does, you know, gold toilets have to do with the war effort? But you know, there's a lot of that money being used, I think, going for purposes other than the war. And so, you know, but the sooner we get that stopped, the better, you know. And I think Ukraine's going to have to give up some of that land that, you know, Russia wants, and they're going to have to do that, like it or not, and get this thing settled, and let's get down to business, you know, running the country.
I think my two biggest concerns is the trying to limit how big the Ukrainian army can be. You know, I'd say, okay, then let's do the same thing for Russia.
Yeah.
If we can only have 600,000, then you can only have 600,000. Yeah. Russia would say, forget that. Then why would you think Ukraine should do the same thing? That's number one. And number two is, well, you can't have any other foreign aid. You can't have NATO. You can't have this or that. Like, well, then, you know, then how about you can't have anything from China? You know, and if Russia says, well, no, of course we have, you know, the double standard stuff of trying to cripple one side while the other side has all the cards. I'm not in favor of that.
Well, you know, they've got to work out some kind of a settlement, you know, and I think there's going to be some give and take on both sides. There always is, whether you're trying to settle a local conflict or whether you're trying to settle a national conflict or international. You know, everybody's got to give a little and take a little. So we'll just kind of see how this goes.
Yeah, we'll keep our eye on it and see how that conversation goes back and forth. You know, I've never been one about they had to give up Crimea, you know, but I think Ukraine's never going to say, well, we're going to nationally recognize that. I think they're just going to say, we're just going to leave that the way that it is for now.
Yeah.
And we'll deal with that. We'll deal with that on another day, you know, and see what happens down the road. I think, you know, we're going to have to see what kind of Russia emerges post-Putin. He's not going to be there forever.
Yep.
And
right.
You know, I think, what, is he in his 70s? I think he's in his 70s, you know, and we'll see what kind of a country Russia will be once you get him out of there. But he makes all the decisions. I mean, if that treaty goes, it's because he says so, and that's that. You know, in Ukraine, it's like Zelensky can't approve that. It's got to go to their version of Congress and things like that, just like it would have to here. You know, and that's the way government's supposed to work. And by the way, I saw that a statement. I popped it on my own page this weekend, but it was, the Constitution wasn't made to limit the people. The Constitution was made to limit the government. And I think we have to remember in this country, just like over there, our government is what's limited, not the people. Even here, you know, when we see some things that we don't like that our government is doing, we should have the right to limit that government, limit that action. I think recently we found out that these governments, local, have just unilateral authority on things like the budget. I think no one ever believed something like that could happen. And now that it has, there's this stronger push to change our Constitution in the state of Kansas so it can never happen again. But I mean, how do you say you have a government of the people when the people are vastly against an action of the government and can't do anything about it?
Well, it wasn't designed to be that way, but over time, like anything else, you know, government encroachment, rules, regulations, controls, you know, all that gradually switched that. And, you know, some perhaps unknowing representatives, you know, voted to, well, I don't know whether they voted. I don't guess they voted to eliminate the voice of the people, but they certainly disallowed any possibility of, you know, rejection. You know, and when we got to looking into that, you know, I mean, the people's voice has been silenced because there's no opportunity to, you know, to object to what they do. And you got to look really hard and to see, you know, what you can do. You know, I mean, government is in control. So, you know, that's, you know, major importance is you try to pick the people that you believe you can trust. Well, you know, sometimes that don't work out well either. But, you know, it should have some sort of a way to once a, you know, a law is passed or a tax is passed or something, that people's voice can be heard. And it probably shouldn't be wait until it's passed. It probably should be prior to that, when the people have a voice in, you know, that decision. And how do we go about that? I don't know, but the legislature is kind of working on some of that now. So if you've got some ideas, you know, contact your local legislator or legislators, you know, and that don't stop here in this county, but it goes for all 105 other counties in the state of Kansas. You know, people need a voice.
Well, I think that the place where these things kind of get out of hand is when you think you were elected to govern or lead the people. That's not, you were elected to listen and represent the people.
That's right.
To represent where they're at, to represent their views, to take those views in, not to just say, well, I was elected to lead you. When people don't understand what leadership really is, leadership is you present some ideas and you take some ideas, and then the people say they want to go this direction, so you help make that happen.
Yeah.
That's leadership. Leadership isn't, well, I'm here, so I get to make this decision, and this is what it's going to be. And whether you like it or not, that's the way it's going to be. You know, and I think that's where I get upset with things like the Kansas Association of Counties and things like that, because they say, you know, you're there to make these tough calls, and you know, people would never fund government if people weren't willing to step out. And it's like, no, that's absolutely false. People understand they got to fund government.
Sure.
People understand they've got to pay taxes. They get that.
You
This
just don't
idea,
want them taxing you out of house and home.
yeah, or that you haven't, you know, you're growing faster than the private sector.
Yeah.
You know, government is a part of society. The people that work in government are part of society.
Yeah.
But if society, I just saw a report this morning, they're talking about ag being down $9 billion, a 6% decrease. Well, if ag drops like that, how did they afford to just say, well, government's guaranteed to grow, so whether you take 6% on the chin or not, you're going to pay more just for the stuff. No, government's got to say, if, especially in ag communities, they have to say, if it's down, then we have to come down with it.
Sure. Well, that's the reason I said a little bit ago. I think, you know, there needs to be some kind of some way to connect, you know, the price of wheat or a bale of cotton or whatever it might be, you know, a bushel of soybeans or 100 pounds of Milo or whatever it is, you know, to your ability to tax. And, you know, that'd do away with a lot of that, you know, just up and say, well, we need more money and that's it, you know, because ag, especially here in Surrey County, is a, you know, a major contributor to the valuation. And when you got a drop in market prices like we've got, and an increase in taxes like there's being, you know, put on us, you know, that's gonna place a lot of these farmers and ranchers in, you know, a desperate situation, to say nothing about, you know, a lot of homeowners, you know, or those that are trying to buy a house and mortgage payments and that kind of thing. I mean, it's, you know, this is you know, serious situation we've got here, and there doesn't seem to be any ability to get the message that, hey, this is really going to cause some serious harm.
And that's why the people always have to have a mechanism in their government to stand up when they feel like something has gone askew.
Yep.
They've got to have that ability. And we're pushing for that constitutional amendment. It's not, like I say, it's not just Seward County. Seward County is probably one of the worst offenders, but it's, you know, happening across the state of Kansas. But if ag is down, then the rest of government that serves an ag community has to come down with it. It just has to.
Yep.
There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah, that's, well, you know, there is such a thing as a parity scale. And parity means that you're equal with all other things, except when it comes to ag commodities. And that parity scale is thrown out the window when it comes to that. And all that means is when the price of fertilizer goes up, or, you know, whatever it is, the price of these commodities goes up accordingly. And, you know, like anything else, you know, like running a shoe store, you know, when the price of leather goes up, you know, the price of shoes go up. But, you know, there's no correlation nowadays, you know, to that. But that parity scale is something that's dearly missing. It's kind of like going off the gold standard, I guess. You know, there's nothing there, just print money, because it's not tied to anything. You don't have to produce more oil or gas or livestock or, you know, whatever you're manufacturing. Just print more money, and all that does is devalue the currency that's already in place, and it takes more and more dollars to do that. So, you know, somewhere along the line, we perhaps need to get back on the gold standard. You know, as more and more gold is being produced, you know, then you adjust your economic situation, and the dollar's introduced into the economy accordingly. But right now, you don't do that. You just borrow more money and pay more interest.
Well, I'm not. I'm not necessarily ready to go back to the gold standard in that, but I am saying that you can't just print your way out of problems. You can't just keep printing more dollars and flushing them out there and thinking that's going to solve your issues. That's how you get $36 trillion in debt. That's how you get a generation who says it's not even really real, so you can just make that value whatever you want. That is just not true. You know, there's blood, sweat, and tears that goes into every dollar. It's labor, it's product that you're mining that you turn into something else.
Yep.
It's all work. It's all work, and you can't just. That's not just imaginary. It's a real thing. But these people think, who cares about the national debt? Because you can just cancel that off with the stroke of a pen. No, you can't. No, you can't. That's real money owed to somebody.
If you don't think you can't do that, go ask your banker just to wipe your note off.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way it works on a smaller scale, but
And it's going to happen one day. It's going to happen that there's going to be a generation that says, that's what we did. And that's the first generation of socialism in America. And it'll be their children that fight that off. I like what someone said. You can vote socialism in, but your grandkids will have to fight it off. And have we not seen that pattern in history enough to know that?
apparently not.
Because they don't teach it. They won't
No.
teach it.
No. That's a real problem is that we've got away from teaching, real economics and real civics, American history, those kind of things. And, that's led us to the situation we're in right now.
I see Calvin's back on here. Calvin, did you have your heart surgery the other day? Let us know. I hope that went well for you. You say what is needed are the people who will do what the people are asking, not what the elected officials say you need. If elected means what I think it means, doesn't mean getting what you want and willing to do what you elected me to do. I'm not a smart man, but if the ego issues are removed, then we'll have a much better time of it. And I think that's true. Sometimes you have to say, look, this is where I'm at on the issue, but this is where the public's at. And I got to go with where the public's at on it. That's why I modified my position a little on downtown. I'm ready to go mingle parking today and let's get her done. But I've said, okay, let's do it with a sample. Let's do it with a certain amount of time and let's see what happens.
See if it works.
Yeah. I'm willing to give a little. If you're willing to give a little, I've seen some people say, absolutely not. It's like, well, then you can't be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to give anything, look at what Mamdani and Trump just did. That's the example of where we got to go, and it's what local leaders should be doing too. When people came and were complaining about the tax, they should have said, "Okay, look." But I heard one of the work sessions, and I heard members of staff say, "It's just a few. We're just hearing from a few." Look, you're not going to see 20,000 people come to the meeting.
No, you'll never see that. It's kind of like voting. You got all these voter registrations, and you come up with 13 to 17% of them vote. They're just not the type of people to stand up and speak up. And those that do are few, but thank goodness they do. Somebody needs to be the voice. And if you don't like what they're promoting, then you become the voice. It's not easy. I'll guarantee you. I remember the first time, I had to stand up in front of a small group. My knees was shaking more than my lips were moving. But anyway, you just have to do that. And yeah, it's a small number, but I'll guarantee you, if you look at the amount that are supporting that small number versus those that are trying to, demanding that you pay more in taxes, I think you're going to find shortly that, you're way outnumbered.
Yeah. And that's why this idea that you were put there to lead, to make the hard decisions, is not good advice. You're there to make the decisions that the people want you to make. You represent the people.
Yep.
You don't lead the people. You're not their leader. You're definitely in a position of authority, but that can be taken away and will be taken away, I believe, if you don't listen to the people and say, okay, the people aren't with us on this. So this is what we have to do. We've got to modify our position some to satisfy the public to a certain degree. Not everybody, but something. And when you give nothing, this is where we end up.
Now we're stuck here, and this is where we're going to stay. You know, but as the people began to looking into this, look at the different options that were available. I mean, there was an option to talk with Conestoga, Arcannon Energy, and you know, resolve that to some degree. You know, there was you know, an opportunity for, if you had to, you could go for no fund warrants, but there was a better possibility, possibly, of having enough money set back that you know, you might not have had to do anything. You might have just been able to work out some kind of a settlement. You know, but it's like, nope, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to do it, and we don't care about options. And that's where we've really got hung up, is not caring about options, I think.
And that's why the uprising. That's why the people, you know, want to see change. And that's why people filed complaints to say, look, this thing isn't going the way that we think it should go. This isn't going the way that we believe the people wanted to see you represent us. And so they'll change it. I hope that it can be done, you know, relatively in a short order, so that the people aren't hurt as badly as they have been. So we're working on it. Well, we don't want to leave you today without bringing you your squeaky clean car wash weather report. Today is going to be mostly sunny with a high near 56. Northwest wind 10 to 16 miles per hour. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 32. West-northwest wind around 7 miles per hour. Looking ahead to the rest of your week, Tuesday, talking about a high of 51. Wednesday, 49. Thanksgiving Day, 54. And sunny. Friday, 53. Saturday, 44. And Sunday, a 20% chance of snow.
Oh,
33. 33 degrees.
Snow.
Oh, that's your weather outlook, and that's the news and views you can use on the high plains. Monday, November 24th, 2025. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning at 7:30. Until then, this road the leader in times with Jim Rice, saying when you live in Liberal
Or Blackwell, Oklahoma.
there's no place like home. Have a great day, everybody.